Arrested for pursuant to an arrest warrant. It was issued June 3rd. It's charging you with aggravated battery with a firearm.
Hush D's story is one of the wildest rides in modern hip-hop. From the cold corners of Memphis to platinum plaques, and then straight into a federal cell, all because he couldn't escape the same streets that made him who he was. This isn't just another rapper gone wrong headline. It's a real-life, cautionary tale that unfolded right in front of our eyes. Born Montreal Donald Williams Jr, better known as Pooh Shiesty, he came into the world on November 8, 1999, in the gritty heart of Memphis, Tennessee, a city famous for creating legends and chaos in equal measure. But unlike rappers who only rap about the struggle, Shiesty lived it. He grew up in the Cane Creek apartments on Memphis's south side, a place where survival wasn't just a choice, it was a requirement. He once described his neighborhood in just 2 words: all hood. That energy molded him, scarred him, and eventually defined his rise and his downfall. Even his name carried history. His late brother, Terran Henderson, who tragically lost his life to brain cancer in 2021.
Do y'all shit together, it seemed like a lot of chemistry.
Yeah, it's too much chemistry, really. And then it's like us to being together make us go hard or make something.
Gave him the nickname Shiesty, blending his childhood alias Mr. Pooh with a raw street twist. That name became more than a stage tag. It was a symbol of loyalty, defiance, and pain. Losing his brother left a wound that never healed, a pain that fueled his music like gasoline poured over a flame. By the age of 18, Shiesty was ready to turn his street stories into soundtracks. In 2019, he dropped his breakout single Hell Night, featuring his lifelong brother Big 30. Not just a collaborator, but a childhood friend who grew up right beside him. The two went to the same alternative, school, and eventually formed what the streets would soon know as the Chopper Gang. And this wasn't just some studio-made image.
He might go on a verse and say something crazy, everybody in the yo going crazy, then I go in there, then, you know what I'm saying? It just make me go, he give me the extra go.
They were really living that life. Shiesty once said that his bond with Big 30 went far beyond music, something real, raw, and dangerous. Then came the moment that changed everything. In April 2020, trap legend Gucci Mane slid into Shiesty's Instagram DMs, and within a week, he was officially signed to 1017 Records. Gucci didn't just see a hot rapper, he saw himself in Shiesty, that same hunger, that same Memphis grind. Almost overnight, Shiesty went from the corners of South Memphis to sitting beside one of trap music's biggest icons. Timing couldn't have been more crucial. At that point, Memphis was locked in a silent war between Yo Gotti's CMG and Young Dolph's Paper Route empire, 2 powerful street-rooted empires. By joining Gucci, Shiesty avoided the deadly crossfire, a strategic escape that might have saved his life. He even said later in his Breakfast Club interview that working with Gucci gave him space to breathe, create and focus on music instead of street politics. But then came the song that stamped his name into hip-hop history forever. Back in Blood, featuring Lil Durk. This wasn't just a collab, it was Memphis street energy meeting Chicago drill power. Pure, unfiltered aggression. According to Shiesty, the record came together effortlessly. 2 artists locked in with zero ego, just chemistry. When the track dropped on November 6, 2020, it exploded. It climbed to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100, went platinum, and became an instant street anthem. Every club, every car, every hood block had that hook shaking the ground. But what really made it hit wasn't just the beat. It was the truth in his voice. Every bar, every line, every threat carried real weight. From Cane Creek to Gucci's 1017, Shiesty's rise was proof that the streets can make you a star. But just as easily, they can destroy you, and soon, that same loyalty that built his reputation would be the very thing that tore it all down. Because when Back in Blood dropped, people noticed something deeper in the lyrics. Fans and rivals alike.
Like, I ain't gonna lie, I ain't never wanted to sign to nobody. It's just my mentality. And you know, in the city, it's like you gotta sign to either one of them. You gotta be paper out of CMG. So before WAP came out, I'm still Chopper Gang, this is my label. So I wanted to be like, why you can't be signed to Chopper Gang, CMG, or paper route?
claimed the bars weren't just clever wordplay, they were real-life taunts, aimed directly at enemies. When Shiesty rapped, "Yeah, you know who took that from you. Come get it back in blood," everyone knew he wasn't just rapping, it was a challenge, a threat, and a declaration, all in one. The song became more than a hit, it turned into a street rally cry. But behind all that success came the heat. The streets were watching, and so were the feds. Still, Shiesty's career was on fire. In February 2021, he released his debut mixtape, Shiesty Season, debuting at number 3 on the Billboard 200. A massive win for a kid who'd been recording out of his neighborhood. Just a few years earlier, it wasn't just another chart topper, it was a full-blown cultural shift, a moment that proved the new generation of Memphis had officially taken over. Hip-hop, Pooh. Shiesty's voice had a power few could match. It could shift from calm storytelling to raw aggression in a single breath. Fans.
Pooh Shiesty, man, I don't know who writing his lyrics. The devil? How that boy think of all that shit? As young as he is, man, how that little nigga think all that shit? How he know about all them guns? How he know how to kill the way he kill? Man, that's a dangerous motherfucker.
Called it real Memphis energy. His sound was dark, unapologetic, and authentic. The kind of music you didn't just hear, you felt it in your chest. But behind all that success, danger was slowly building. While the world was celebrating his rise, those close to him started seeing the warning signs. Because for Shiesty, the bars he rapped weren't just clever metaphors, they were confessions, hidden in rhythm. Every line came from something real, something dangerous, something lived, and soon, that blurred line between the music and his real life became impossible to ignore. One of the first to speak on it was Charleston White, the outspoken commentator known for stirring controversy and calling rappers out. When he talked about Pooh Shiesty, his words hit like prophecy. He said Shiesty was too deep in the streets to ever fully escape. That no matter how high he climbed, the same life he glorified would one day drag him back down. At the time, people laughed. They said Charleston was just hating, chasing clout, chasing views. But looking back now, his words were hauntingly accurate. Because as Shiesty's fame skyrocketed, his name started showing up in places that had nothing to do with music. Between 2020 and 2021, he was connected to 3 separate, violent incidents, moments that would eventually trigger a full-scale federal investigation and destroy everything he'd built. That was the cruel irony. The very authenticity that made fans love him was the same thing that doomed him in a rap game full of fake gangsters and rented chains. Pooh Shiesty was the real deal, but being real in the streets and surviving in the industry are 2 completely different games. Because once the feds start watching, real turns into evidence. Every lyric, every Instagram post, every video becomes ammunition. By mid-2021, law enforcement was already connecting the dots, and what they uncovered painted a dark picture of a young star who couldn't leave his past behind. It started small. One night, Pooh Shiesty was sitting in a car at a gas station when another person inside allegedly fired a gun. At first, it seemed like just another reckless moment from someone still adjusting to fame, but investigators later said that this incident was the spark that lit the fuse. It put Shiesty's name right back on police radar just as his career was exploding, and that was only the beginning, because what came next would show just how quickly success can flip into disaster when the streets and fame collide. These weren't isolated events, they were pieces of a bigger picture, proving that Shiesty wasn't just rapping about the streets. He was still trapped inside them. From that gas station moment forward, every move pulled him deeper into chaos, until that chaos finally came knocking with federal charges attached. The dream life he had fought so hard for was about to turn into his worst nightmare. That single gunfire incident might have looked small at first, but it quietly became the foundation for a federal conspiracy case, a case that prosecutors would later build piece by piece, lyric by lyric. While details of that specific shooting stayed limited, it became a crucial part of the federal indictment Pooh Shiesty would eventually plead guilty to. But the situation that really caught the feds' attention happened just a few months later, and it sounded like something straight out of a crime movie gone wrong. On October 9th, 2020, in Bay Harbor Islands, Florida, Shiesty and his crew pulled up for what was supposed to be a quick deal, a transaction involving marijuana, codeine, and luxury sneakers. Sounds harmless enough, right? Except this deal turned into complete chaos. According to police,
the culture is destructive anyway, right? The hip hop culture, the black culture is destructive and detrimental anyway. So he's born into it. He's not giving out the energy, homie. He's just a reflection of it. Look who he signed to. Nigga. You see what I'm saying? He ain't giving that energy out, homie. He was born into this culture. And nigga, he just reflected it.
Police reports, Shiesty met with two men, Sana and Brandon Cooper, in the parking lot of a condo complex directly across the street from the Bay Harbor Islands Police Department. That's right, they were out there conducting illegal business in plain sight of law enforcement. That night, Pooh Shiesty's level of boldness could only be described two ways: fearless or foolish. Maybe both. Surveillance cameras caught every second of it. Luxury cars pulling into the lot, including a McLaren reportedly driven by Shiesty himself. Moments later, chaos erupted. Gunshots shattered the quiet. People scattered in panic as the air filled with smoke and confusion. When it finally cleared, two men were down, one hit in the buttocks, while Shiesty's crew sped away, scooping up marijuana, codeine, and sneakers in their frantic escape. But what happened next turned this from bad to embarrassingly bad. In the rush, Shiesty dropped a Louis Vuitton bag at the scene, a bag stuffed with $41,000 in cash. And here's where his downfall really started taking shape. Because this wasn't just any Louis bag. Investigators found something shocking. Some of the 100 bills inside had the exact same serial numbers as the money Shiesty had proudly flashed on his Instagram. The same bag, the same money, the same flex, all pointing straight back to him. That right there is the harsh truth of fame. In the digital age, the internet doesn't just build your image. It can build the case against you. Most rappers forget. It's not just fans watching, it's the feds too. Every photo, every caption, every flex becomes digital evidence, and Shiesty, like so many before him, had basically handed them everything they needed, wrapped in designer leather and caught in HD. 4 days later, on October 13th, 2020, reality caught up. Shiesty was arrested and charged with armed robbery, aggravated assault, battery, and theft. Just like that, the back-in-blood star, once on top of the rap world, was now sitting in a cell, facing decades behind bars. But here's the thing about federal attention. Once they've got your name, they don't let go. They don't stop at one case. They dig into everything, every city, every friend, every witness, every post, and that's exactly what they did with Pooh Shiesty. While out on bond from the Bay Harbor Islands shooting, instead of laying low, he made a move that sealed his fate. On May 30th, 2021, during Memorial Day weekend, Shiesty found himself in the middle of yet another shooting, this time at the King of Diamonds strip club in northwest Miami-Dade. And unbelievably, it all started over a few dollars. Witnesses said that around 4 a.m., Shiesty was throwing money, making it rain like only he could, when some bills hit the floor. Naturally, people reached down to grab them. Most stars would have laughed it off, maybe even joined in, but not Shiesty. To him, this wasn't about money, it was about respect. Words were exchanged. Security stepped in to calm things down and started escorting him out. But as they reached the exit, witnesses said Shiesty allegedly reached for a gun tucked in his waistband. Security managed to get him outside once, but when they tried a second time, everything went completely off the rails. Things turned ugly fast. According to reports, Shiesty allegedly pulled out a gun and fired. The shot hit a security guard in the leg. Instant chaos. People screamed, dived for cover, and ran for their lives as the music stopped and panic took over the club. Once again, the rising rap star was at the center of the storm. But this wasn't just another bad night. This was the final nail in the coffin. Within hours, his name was all over police reports, media headlines, and federal databases. This was no longer street drama. This was officially a federal case. In less than a year, Pooh Shiesty had gone from chart-topping success to being hunted by the feds, all because he couldn't leave the streets behind. And as the charges piled up, so did the realization. His empire, his fame, and his freedom was slipping right through his hands. This wasn't about self-defense. This was about ego and pride. Shiesty wasn't fighting for his life. He was fighting because he couldn't let disrespect slide. The smart move would have been to walk away, protect the brand, protect the bag, protect his freedom, but instead, he reacted the only way he knew how, the way the streets had taught him. And that's the cruelest irony of all. Here was a young man who had everything most people only dream of. A major record deal, a platinum single, a top 3 Billboard mixtape, and a fanbase that treated him like family. He had millions of people rooting for him, but the same mentality that made him authentic in his music also made him self-destructive in real life.
He might go on a verse and say something crazy, everybody in the yo going crazy, then I go in there, then, you know what I'm saying? It just make me go, he give me the extra go.
That "I don't back down from nobody" energy fans loved in his lyrics became the very thing that destroyed him, because when the pressure got real, he couldn't separate Shiesty the artist from Shiesty the street soldier. Even his close friend and brother-in-arms, Big 30, reflected on how fast everything fell apart. In one interview, he said, "Yeah man, it happened fast, too fast. He ain't even get time to slow down." Those words hit hard, because it's true. Shiesty went from hustling in Memphis to being a national superstar almost overnight, with no time to adapt to a new way of living. By June 8, 2021, the ride was over. Shiesty turned himself in and was charged with aggravated battery. This time, there would be no bail, no flashy bond money, no quick release. The system had him locked down tight. Everyone around him could feel it. The walls were closing in. The writing was on the wall. The feds weren't just building one case, they were connecting the dots from the Memphis gas station incident to the Florida robbery to the Miami strip club shooting. They were painting a picture of a rapper tied to a larger criminal conspiracy. And that's exactly what came next. In June 2021, Pooh Shiesty was officially indicted on federal charges tied to the Bay Harbor Islands case, including conspiracy to possess firearms in furtherance of violent and drug trafficking crimes. The feds were relentless, and the penalties stacked against him were brutal. If convicted on all counts, he was staring down a potential life sentence. Think about that, from red carpets to concrete walls in under 2 years. That's how fast it can all vanish when fame and street life collide. What made it even more tragic? His music career didn't die with him behind bars. It kept growing. In April 2022, while still locked up, he dropped Shiesty Season Certified, featuring Gunna, Lil Durk, and Lil Uzi Vert. The project proved his name still carried weight. Fans still streamed his music, still shouted his lyrics, still believed in his comeback. But the truth was heartbreaking. His potential was rotting behind prison walls. To understand how he ended up here, you have to understand where he came from. Memphis isn't just another rap city. In many areas, it's a war zone. Reports say there are over 100 active gangs and around 13,000 members. That's not a statistic. That's reality for kids growing up there. Groups like Chopper Gang, which Shiesty proudly represented, weren't just music crews. They were neighborhood alliances, deeply tied to rivalries that often turned violent. When you grow up in a place where respect equals survival, letting something slide isn't an option. And even when the money and fame come, that mindset doesn't disappear. It's burned into you. So when Pooh Shiesty reached fame, his environment changed, but his mentality didn't. He was still living by the same street code that kept him alive in Memphis. But that same code was poison in the business world. And up next came the final chapter, the courtroom battle that decided his fate, the plea deal that saved him from life behind bars, and the question everyone wanted answered. Where does Pooh Shiesty stand now? Because once the feds get involved, it's no longer about followers, fame, or streams. It's about survival. And when it came to federal...
He might go on a verse and say something crazy, everybody in the yo going crazy, then I go in there, then, you know what I'm saying? It just make me go, he give me the extra go.
Justice, they weren't playing. They were ready to make an example out of him. On July 8th, 2021, Magistrate Judge Lauren Fleer Louis ordered Williams held without bond, pointing to his public profile and the seriousness of his charges. The message was clear. This wasn't some small-time rapper. This was a high-risk case, and at that moment, the young superstar was staring directly into the cold reality of federal time. The reality hit hard, the kind that makes your stomach drop. Pooh Shiesty was staring down the very real possibility of never walking free again. These weren't just street whispers, these were federal indictments, conspiracy to possess firearms in furtherance of violent crime, Hobbs Act robbery conspiracy, discharging a firearm in a violent offense. Each charge carried enormous weight, enough to